Hey guys, effectively, ever since I've retired, I've been pushing myself to create any kind of posts in the print on demand world, from Redbubble to TeePublic. It's been really hard, I guess you could say, or it takes a lot of motivation to create any kind of post on these kind of sites. And in a way, in some sort of way, I don't want to say fully, but print on demand is slowly dying. There's an advantage of that, however, but it is. Let me first explain what I'm talking about here. If this right here represents print on demand, this represents the attention that print on demand is given. And print on demand as an infrastructure, as a niche itself is not dying. If you get into the print on demand world, you start uploading t-shirt designs, maybe to Redbubble or to TeePublic, or maybe even merch by Amazon, you're still going to make money. Let's be clear. You're still going to produce income over time. So that's not dying. I mean, maybe it is slowly dying, but hey, if you're not growing, you're dying, right? So whatever. But what I really am talking about is the attention that's given to print on demand. That is definitely dying. To put things into consideration, if we kind of go back in time to 2022, if you search Redbubble, there would always be fresh new videos being posted about Redbubble. TeePublic, same thing. Merch by Amazon, same thing. But if you search those same search terms today on YouTube, being the main focal point of publication, there's not nearly as many videos that are being published. In fact, if I had to guess, every, let's just say, day, you would have 4, 5, 6, 7 new videos on Redbubble being posted at that time. If you search it today, you might have a new video every month from one creator across the whole entire platform. In English, that is. I don't know about other countries and other languages, but I know in English, that's probably the case. What that really does is that, like I said, decreases attention. But really what that means is there's not a new influx of creators on these platforms as much. They still exist, don't get me wrong. There's new people joining these platforms every day, but it's not to the same degree as it once was, especially since what had happened after COVID-19. If you guys aren't familiar, during COVID-19, and I'm probably going to erase this. Can I erase this? I don't even know. After COVID-19, or during COVID-19, let's just put it this way, what happened, right? Let's think about this for a second. If I'm going to draw this peak of a mountain, okay, and then this downhill, what happened? Okay, so COVID-19 started. What happened during COVID-19? People got stimulus checks. Okay, what happened to those stimulus checks? The money was being spent. The economy was stimulated to such a point where all kinds of different businesses created income. In fact, Redbubble during just one quarter, generated something like $125 million or $124 million in a quarter. Think about that. These are products that normally cost $10, $20, $30 a piece, generating $124 million a quarter. That's insanity. That's a lot of money. You know what I mean? So my point here is during COVID, what the economy was stimulated to such a point, at least in the United States, stimulated to such a point, definitely not in Europe and places like that, but I'm talking about United States, stimulated to such a point where people were spending money. And here we have the internet where people buy and order stuff off the internet and they get delivered. Usually, guys, if you live in Italy, if you live in Germany, you live in places like this, at least in the cities, you're going to go buy your products essentially in person for the most part. People do get deliveries and things like that in other countries, but the culture, European culture, is not nearly as... It's just not like the American culture from a spending standpoint. It's just simply not. I mean, I've lived in Europe. I live in America, been born in America, and I've seen the different cultures. It's not the same. Here in America, we have people where pretty much everybody will buy groceries and stock up, right? In Europe, people believe in buying fresh. They buy fresh new ingredients every few days. It's a different mentality. The point is that the economy was stimulated to such a high level, people are spending more money. And therefore you, as the designer, as the creator, the print-on-demand seller, you are making more money than you ever have before. Let's say you were normally making 50 cents a month. Now you're making $12 a month. You think it's because of your work. You think it's because of your effort. But partially, it is not. Maybe 80% of the spike in your income during this period of time didn't happen because of your effort or your hard work or anybody's hard work. It happened because of the economical stimulation. And then what happened is that these companies saw the spending. They saw that people were buying the face mask, the t-shirts, the whole thing. And what did they do? Because of that, they upped infrastructure, right? So expenses went up. Why? Because, hey, we have money. We'd rather not pay taxes on this money. We might as well use it as a tax deduction. So let's go ahead and buy more infrastructure. Let's hire more employees. Let's buy a company jet. Let's do these things to effectively decrease our tax bill. We're already making money. So these companies like Redbubble, for example, buy more things. They also are stimulated because of the economy, and they just simply spend more money. The CEOs are getting bonuses. The C-suite executives are getting bonuses, paid vacations, everything, you name it, right? Then what happens after COVID? Well, people come back to reality in the United States. There's no more stimulus checks. People have to go back to work. There was this whole movement called, I believe it was silent quitting or whatever, where people are just not happy to be back to work. They got used to the good life, making money while sitting at home and watching TV, and maybe tuning into with your boss through a Zoom call every now and then. And what happened is all this high infrastructure exists, but there's not as much money coming in. In fact, sales started to plummet. And what happens from this standpoint is quite logical. Because companies are not making as much as they used to, and especially they didn't project this kind of change, what do they have to do? They're either going to, they can only cut costs. And in order to cut costs, there's only two ways to do so. It's to fire employees, right? Lay off employees, fire employees, or to not spend as much and figure out how to cut costs in, different fees and things like that. So a company like Redbubble, what are they going to do? They're going to look at the highest, burn rate. What's causing the highest burn rate in their accounts? In the case of Redbubble, it was most likely because they don't really have that much staff. I think they have like 200 people or 100 people or whatever it is, or maybe even 1,000. I don't know, but it's really not that much for a company of their size. The point is what they did was they created restrictions on people's accounts, on creators' accounts. And why do you think they did that? They did that because the server costs were so erroneous. They were so large. They were so huge, unpredictable, where people were uploading spam images, especially because AI at this time started to become a thing. And people were posting these garbage images created by DALL-E 1 at the time, and posting them. They don't fit on the image. They don't fit on the shirts. They don't fit. The images don't look good. On top of that, you have more and more people creating, more people signing up from all parts of the world. And all of this stuff costs heavy server costs. And so what does Redbubble do? Causes restrictions. We can't keep paying these server costs. Let's start banning people. Let's start getting people all kicked off the platform. Let's make sure that anybody else who signs up for this platform has to verify with their phone number. We want to make sure they're a human being. So not just Redbubble, but all these companies started doing more restrictions. They're making less money. And things started to go downhill. Then there was this movement called, I believe, Deadbubble or something like that, or hashtag Deadbubble or whatever it was. And you got people, this is not just Redbubble, but Redbubble was kind of well known at the time for this, but you got people hating on the print-on-demand company that they're working with, saying, we hate you, we can't believe you're doing this to us, we're the ones who make you the money and you're doing this to us. They're just trying to make their money, right? They're just trying to accommodate their bills. And what ends up happening is the platforms get so much hate that every time a YouTuber makes a video on the platform, it doesn't perform well. And so what happens? The YouTuber decides, hey, I'm not going to make videos on this anymore. I'm going to find the next shiny thing to keep getting me the attention, to keep making me the money. And the whole concept here is that then people tend to forget about Redbubble. People tend to forget about these platforms. And not everybody, of course, but the large influx that you would have on a daily basis of people paying attention to these things doesn't exist anymore, because now it's Etsy, or now it's, whatever the next best thing is. And Etsy existed forever, but you get my point, right? Whatever is the next thing for you to try. And that's essentially why the attention to print on demand is slowly dying. If you look at the YouTubers who talked about print on demand back in 2020, and you compare their growth on their channels to today, their growth this year, or in the last 365 days, their growth is less today than it is. And I can speak for myself. In 2020, my channel grew faster than it grew in 2021, even though I had more subscribers, even though I was creating the same amount of videos on a daily basis. I was doing the same work, but there was less attention to the focus, right? So my point here is that print on demand is absolutely dying, but it's not dying in a way that you would expect. It's not dying to where if you upload a design, you're not going to make money. No, that's not the case. It's dying in a way where there's less attention on these subjects. Therefore, people are contributing less, working on these platforms less, and therefore creating a market for you if you want to hop in and do actual work on these platforms and sit and wait silently. When you're working on these platforms while other people are choosing not to work on these platforms, you are therefore creating an advantage for yourself. I'm not saying that you should. I'm just simply explaining that this phenomenon exists. And every business has a ticking time bomb. Every business comes to an end at one point or another. However, this is a reality. This is definitely a reality. And you could just look at it. Go to your favorite YouTuber's page. Look what kind of videos they're making now. And then look at their videos 3 years ago. The concepts, the niches are not the same. That YouTuber has pivoted. Why? Because they're incentivized by the amount of views that they generate to create more of something that works. A good example of this is CoffeeZilla. CoffeeZilla was making these documentary-based videos about different companies and different things. And then he made one video outing somebody as a scam. His whole YouTube channel blew up. Next thing you know, every single video he makes is related to that content. So the point is that YouTubers are incentivized by what's getting attention. And print on demand is getting less attention because YouTubers are talking about it less. And they're talking about it less because it's hated by many people in certain ways. And to be honest, I believe, and I hate to say this, but the people who hate these kind of print on demand systems, I never had a real chance to truly, truly profit off of it. How could you hate something that could be putting money in your pocket on a daily basis? You really couldn't, unless it's something that never really helped you in the first place. Isn't that fair to say? Don't you guys agree? And so the point is that it's now become this cyclical thing. If you want to take advantage of print on demand, do it. But don't expect people to talk about it, because it's not going to be something that gains attention, honestly. I don't see it gaining as much attention as it ever did back in 2021, 2022. I don't think it's going to get any better from here. I think it's going to slowly die by maybe 8 to 10 to 12% a year, honestly. 5 years from now, print on demand is going to be a completely different thing on YouTube. I'm not talking about print on demand actually making money on print on demand. I'm talking about it as a niche on YouTube for attention, the thing that garners views. I don't think it's going to be the same industry, the same world even. So you could look at it. People who talk about Etsy, on TeePublic and Redbubble and Zazzle and this and that, they've either migrated to talking about e-commerce Shopify or they talk about Etsy. There's really no in between, because the other concepts, the other things don't grab attention. So this is my fair warning to everybody. If you still want to make money on print on demand, go do it. It exists. It's out there. But there's not going to be new content being pumped out on it. Not because it doesn't work, but because it doesn't get attention. All right? Hopefully this video helps you guys. Go out there and make that passive income. It definitely exists. Go do it. I'll talk to you soon. Peace out. Bye.